Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Repackaging Revolution, the sales, marketing, packaging, brand building podcast where we interview thought leaders we respect and admire who can and will help our listeners grow their business. Today, I'm fortunate to introduce to our audience Mr. Henry Gabriel, the recycling branch chief for the city and county of Honolulu. Yes, long and short, Henry works in garbage while living in paradise. Henry is responsible for managing the city's recycling programs that include curbside, recycling contracts, public education, and outreach. His passion is garbage. Henry is well-versed in green waste along with food waste composting. Reduce, reuse, recycle, and recover is his way of life. Henry has a degree in civil engineering, has worked in this industry in California and now in Hawaii. Everything and anything having to do with waste, he's the man. Henry Gabriel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Good to be here. Glad to be here.
Yeah, there's just so much. And we were talking off camera and we could, right as we got started, the islands of Hawaii are their own real animal out there. You guys have to, first and foremost, protect your assets, the valuable assets of the islands. And you have to make sure that there's just so much going on out there. I don't think a lot of people, yes, you're a state in the U.S., but you guys have to really do things differently than us in the mainland. Is that a pretty fair statement?
No, that's correct, Dave. I mean, if you really think about it, we have 4 counties in the state. That's City and County of Honolulu, Maui County, Kauai County, and then Hawaii County. And all counties, have different ordinances and things like that. So I work for the City and County of Honolulu, and the way we handle trash is different than Maui County, than Kauai County.
Wow.
And so we really have to think about, the trash, the waste that's being generated, what is being generated, and then how to properly dispose of it.
So I know we're going to get into this, but let's just start from the beginning because you and I could riff all day long.
Yes.
How did you get into this? Were you a California guy that went out to Hawaii? Were you in Hawaii, born and raised, and then left? Because I know you had a stint in California.
I was born on Oahu, in Hawaii.
Yep.
And then my parents moved to Northern California.
Yep.
And I was introduced at a very young age, the issue of recycling, 8 years old.
Wow.
I visited my first landfill when I was 8 years old, and I actually repaired a bike that I scavenged from a landfill. And that really got me interested in, at the time, it was more like, oh, I got a new bike. But really, it was the recycling aspect of it. My mom used to take me to high school games, and I was the one. I had 3 older brothers. I was the one who went through all the stadium and picked up all the aluminum cans. And back in like maybe the late 70s, aluminum cans, the rate was only 25 cents per pound. But to an 8-year-old, making $80 for a football season, that's a lot of money at that time.
Yeah.
But I also realized that, I wasn't doing this for myself. The money that I generated was really to also give to my brothers. I was like, why? Why do I have to give to them? But it was really that whole thing about, even though you're doing this for, to generate some money, you got to share with your family.
Right.
And so as I got older, recycling always stuck with me. My dad, he was a sheet metal man, and he would, bring me to the job sites.
Yeah.
And there we are, we're collecting cardboard. Then I was a newspaper delivery person. So any extras, there I am collecting newspaper. So as I got into college, I had this affinity with math. And so I thought, well, let me go do something that I can really work my math skills. And so I started out being a computer science engineer, a hardware designer.
Wow.
And at that time, I was working at a recycling facility on campus. It was Long Beach State.
Yep.
So, going to class and doing really, really well, and then going to work on campus and actually physically seeing things. My junior year, I really had to make a decision. What am I, do I want to continue my studies and be this engineer, or do I really want to work in recycling, which made me happy? And that's something I was so comfortable doing all my life. And so I came out of one of my junior classes And we had a test and I did really well on the test. But it was really at that point, I was like, you know what? I got to talk to my counselor. I don't want to do this. I cannot see
Yeah,
electricity
right.
flow, but I can
Exactly.
physically,
Right.
I can physically touch a newspaper, a cardboard, tin cans, aluminum cans. And so it was at that point where I changed my major to be civil. And
I'll
that
be
only
honest.
extended my college career about a year. But that was it. Once I graduated with a civil engineering background, I really didn't know what a civil engineer did, but that was the easiest path. I then went to go work for a composting company. And that's really, and I've always been a backyard composter. Once again, since I was young, my
Sure.
parents were backyard composters. When I started to kind of like look at my path at that time, going from hardware designer,
Yeah.
civil engineer, recycler, and then composter, I thought, well, you know what? Recycling was fairly new in the early 90s on Oahu. And
100%.
so I moved here in 97 and they had an opening
Hmm.
as a recycling specialist. And I was like, I can do that job. I have all this background.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there in 1998, the city and county of Honolulu hired me. And since then, I've been a city worker. I've delved in refuse, solid waste. I've also went to the wastewater side. So I'm somewhat versed in wastewater. And then here I am. I'm now, the branch chief for the city and county of Honolulu for the recycling branch.
I think that's such a cool start or intro to our interview because you really do have a passion for this. It's not like you're stuck on some sort of hey, I got a 9 to 5 job and this is what I do.
Right.
And that's what I love about you is you really this is who you are and this is what you do. And if there's anything I could look out now, again, stepping back from the way things are on the mainland, man, we need more people like Henry Gabriel. We got to have more people that really, because that's how things are going to get done. That's how we're going to make
Right.
change. And things have, you guys are forced because you're limited way out there and you can't really
Mhm.
run away from it because you're on the island. But here in the US, we can just kick the can and say, we'll deal with it next time. And next election, we'll worry about it. But if there's anything we need is that awareness of recycling and recycling laws and consistent rules and regulations for everybody. We have a real problem in the US with littering. I know you know that as well as anybody. And a lot of
Yes.
littering, 80 some percent, is intentional, which is really bad.
Mhm.
And so much of our young people need to become aware. They learned from parents, they learned from older people saying, just toss it out the window. No, just throw it. But it's guys like you and me that go and pick this stuff up and go like, wait a minute, there's a garbage can, a recycling can right here,
Right next
right
door.
here.
Yeah.
What do you,
Yeah.
how did, you know what I mean? And there's just so much of this that really leads into just, man, if there's anything we need more of is these kind of conversations. Here in the US, Henry, which is really nuts. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what's really crazy is I live in a suburb of Cleveland. If I go to the next suburb over, which is literally a 3-mile drive, they have completely different rules and regulations for
Mhm.
recycling. Then you go to the next city and they have completely different rules. And nobody knows what to follow and what to do. And it's so demoralizing because really when that happens, people do nothing. They just go, I don't know what
Mhm.
to do. And that's not helping for Pete's sake. And it's just like, how have you guys, is that an issue that you have in Hawaii, or is everybody pretty much committed probably from a very young age that, look, we're on an island for Pete's sake. We got to definitely protect what we have and we have to recycle and we have to pick this up and we have to. Can you give me an idea what it's like there versus here?
Just to kind of backtrack a
Yeah.
little bit, what's difficult about my passion for garbage is that my family. I
Yeah.
feel bad for my family because I take it home. And who I am at home, I'm the same solid waste manager at work, at home. And so with that, and you talked about kids and everything like
Yeah.
I don't even have to tell my kids. They just see daddy going through the garbage can, picking out recyclables. And, they're like, okay, what's dad doing? He's like, oh, he's picking up recyclables. That's what he does for work.
Yep.
And he just does it. I just do it.
Yeah, right.
Now, when I look at the different counties, we are different. Ordinances are different. And, we're not connected like the mainland US,
Right.
So even though it's 3 miles away, the next county is on Kauai. They are responsible for their waste. The biggest difference that City and County of Honolulu in managing waste compared to the other counties is that we have waste to energy. And so when we look at the hierarchy of solid waste management, we go to source reduction, recycling, composting, industrial use, and then there's H-Power, that's our waste to energy, and landfill. The other counties go from source reduction, recycling, composting direct to a landfill. So they are they are in dire need to really try and push source reduction, recycling. Whereas for me here on Oahu, I have all of these, I have waste to energy in the back of my pocket, and I can utilize that to kind of justify in my head, okay, yeah, sure, if it's plastic, but we burn it anyways.
Yeah.
But I would rather see more of the source reduction piece especially with single-use plastic.
Yeah, or really in general as well, just to get it, I know. And there's this whole group of people that, single-use plastic definitely has its place in certain industries, but there certainly has to be a dialogue about, how do we recycle that? How do we reuse it? How do we reduce what we're using into something? There's a lot of, misinformation that's out there, but you're right. At the end of the day, the single-use plastic and some of those items we have to rethink what we're doing. Is there a better way to do it? And by the way, there may not be. Oftentimes there is an alternative. And if there's anything I'm passionate about is just telling the truth, because there's a lot of weaponizing and demonizing of plastic and paper and all this stuff when it's misinformation. No, I'm not saying it's not an issue, and I'm not saying I'm Pollyannish to think that, but we have to throw garbage away, and we have to stop littering, and we have to. I'm interviewing a Michigan State professor next week, and you'll love this guy. He's a Brit, but his whole passion is if we don't make recycling and attractive to investors and companies to put money into this, then we're always going to be kind of hand to mouth, meaning we need investors and we need companies that are going to get innovative and are going to put millions of dollars into how can we better recycle? How can we better reuse? How can we better collect this and make it into energy or turn it into something that we could use for the future? And right now, because at least in the US, we're so disjointed and no one really has a leader position, we've got to change that dialogue. We've got to make sure that everybody, at least here in the US, are talking from the same or preaching from the same pulpit, so to speak. So we're all working in the same direction. And unfortunately, we've got guys like Henry Gabriel out there getting things done over there. But here in my community of Cleveland, Ohio, I'm like, why aren't we? Come on, we can do better than this. This is crazy.
When I think of like solid waste management and from an island perspective versus the mainland US,
right?
We have to ship everything in and we have to ship everything out.
Right.
And so a lot of, you mentioned illegal dumping.
Yeah.
We have illegal dumping. We have a bottle bill that will, you pay 5 cents, you'll get your 5 cents, but people still litter, that type of material. I can go down the street and I can still pick up items here and there. And it's like you said, there's a garbage can right next door to a trash can.
Right.
I can go to the beach and I still find, all of this stuff there.
Right.
And so that's a huge problem here. And sometimes the more we regulate garbage, the more illegal dumping may occur. And so we're trying to find balance. Okay, we just have to enforce illegal dumping, but also make it convenient for residents and businesses to dispose of their waste properly.
Well, and it's one of the questions, and you and I know that one of the things we'll wrap up today's thing with is what does Henry Gabriel say that, how do we fix this? How do we do this? But we'll get to that in a second because there's so
Sure.
much to dig into. But tell me what if you're, you've got a whole team of people in the city and
Mhm.
county of Honolulu. And what is that like? Are you guys, give me an idea. Are what's the mission, if you will? What's the directive that you're sending your team out to either, is it discover or find problems with recycling and disposing, or is it to help people understand? Is it education? Give me an idea of what's the mission?
The mission for, I would say, the refuse division in general,
Yeah.
it's really to safeguard all residents, to safeguard all visitors that are coming to Oahu.
Mhm.
And it's really by managing solid waste from beginning to end. In that mission now, waste is already generated.
Yeah.
So when I really think about and that's really what we do for the refuse division is that we take waste
Yeah.
and we make sure it disposed of properly. But when I look at the hierarchy of solid waste, it really boils down to the individual, the resident who's generating the waste, to understand what they are generating. We're coming into the holiday season.
Yeah.
It's our busiest time.
Yep.
And so people don't realize that,
Yep.
but waste is being generated, every day. But during the holiday season, starting,
Yep.
Thanksgiving, it
Yep.
starts to increase even more. So, it's yes, waste, we're going to make sure we dispose of waste properly, for public health concerns.
Sure.
But really, individuals need to look at the waste that they're generating to see how they can minimize that amount of waste.
Are you guys doing public education? Are you doing speeches and talks? How do you get that message across?
All of the above. My staff, the recycling staff, I think this is just everywhere. We're short staffed.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things that I end up doing, or the few staff that I have that we're doing, is public education,
Right.
is presentations.
Yep.
And the message is the same.
Yep.
Look at what you're generating
Yep.
as far as waste. It just doesn't disappear.
Yes, exactly.
And so we try to get out there as much as we can to the schools. We partner every year we partner with a theater group and we put together a show on solid waste, on
Nice.
garbage, whatever
Nice.
we feel the waste will be, let's say, for that year.
Sure.
Could be landfill
Yep.
waste, could be electronic waste, food waste, and all things like that. And they go out to the schools and the message is clear, about really trying to understand the waste that you're generating and then how the city and county of Honolulu dispose of these types of waste. But it's through it all. And, the recycling staff, being a very passionate person about garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes most people, they're like, oh, Henry, this is just a, 8 to 5 job for me. And it's like, okay, I'm going to push you hard because
Yep.
this is 24-hour thinking here that you're
100%.
dealing with. I can't
Right.
sleep at night because I'm thinking of how am I going to get rid of metal,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
or how am I going to write
Exactly.
a contract on recycling more material.
Sure.
So I really try and strive to be an example for the recycling staff. So then that way, when they go home, they understand, really what is it that I'm generating here at home, and how do I dispose of it properly, or generate less.
Well, exactly. And it's so, I can feel your passion about this too. And I mean that respectfully, because this is who you are. And it's something
Yes.
that just drew you to me and me to you from the very beginning. And you've got a team of people that just sort of there's a magnet to what you're doing. And what do you need if you were out looking into your crystal ball? Do you need more awareness from the young people? Do you need more older folks to buy in? What if you clicked your fingers and said, "Hey, I want to," what would that more people, more staff? What would that be?
And that is a very difficult
Yeah.
question to
Yeah.
answer, but I'll give it a step.
Yeah.
The older generation, and I'm at the younger part of the
Yeah,
older
yep,
generation.
yep.
They know. They went through all of the things that we are going through now. They've figured out a way to be resourceful
Yeah.
at that time.
Yep.
And so a lot of things that I'm doing is because of my mom or my grandmother or my father or my grandfather. And so it's almost like the generation, especially the kids nowadays, technology is king with them. And so what do we see now in our waste stream? Well, we see lithium batteries
Yeah,
and we
right.
see cell phones.
Sure.
So it's almost like we have to really educate the kids on the waste that's being generated now. What is that waste? The recycling aspect. These are things that they should know
Yep.
already.
Yep.
But waste evolves. And so no longer are we seeing newspaper, we're seeing more cardboard.
Exactly.
Why? Because we're buying stuff
Yep.
online.
I know. Right.
So it's really trying to educate the kids
Yep.
on the current
Yep.
waste characterization now,
Yep.
even though it might be a little bit above,
Yep.
what they understand.
Yep.
Also review what the typical recyclable materials, the typical compostable materials, and then look into the future about what they will experience as they grow older.
Yep.
Because you can, like, for the state of Hawaii and City and County of Honolulu, alternative energy is where we're headed.
Yep.
So we're already thinking, okay, what is the waste, derived from that?
Yep. Correct.
And we've got to be able to understand that now so we can figure out a way to dispose of it properly for the next generation to deal with. So
yeah, and there was a reason why I asked that, because we're both very passionate about awareness from a young age. We're both very passionate about teaching our kids, whether
yes,
they're younger kids or minor in college or just out of college, they're clearly thinking about the environment. I can't honestly say when I was that age at 18 or 19, I was not thinking about the environment. It wasn't top of mind, but if we start early, it becomes part of, hey, look, you've got the cell phones and electronic waste and lithium batteries. You just can't toss them into regular garbage. You have to do X, Y, and Z. And here's why. And and there's just so much of that I really believe, if there's anything happening with a younger generation, I really believe they want to do what's right for the environment. I really believe they want to. They just need direction. They just need a consistent message. They just need guidance, for Pete's sake. And it's such a massive opportunity for us. And it's one of those things, because I'm in the packaging space and I see that from a, goodness gracious, there's so much we can do to reduce how much we're using. There's so much we can do that, we are so lazy in the US. It's a general statement, but well, that's the way it's always been, Henry. We've always used a 5-gallon bucket. We're just going to, but do you know how much fuel you're using to ship that on a cargo boat or a truck or whatever, when you could use a pouch or a bladder bag or something that you could literally uses 80% less material? Well, we've always done it this way, and maybe next time we'll think about it. And if there's anything that I think that I'm hoping that our younger generation can really jump on, is no, we don't have time to kick it down the road anymore. We have to do something about it now.
Right. I agree 100%. Part of me is wanting to do as much as I can. But it's like, the kids at a younger age, the elementary school, they're all, they bring their own flask.
Yep.
And whether or not they see that as source reduction or not, that's the message I'm gonna relay. Then I go to the high schools and the college levels, and then you see them bringing in coffee, from a coffee store.
Yeah.
And there's like, okay, wait a minute now. Now, and then you hope that, okay, is it going to be a compostable cup or something like that?
Yep.
But, right there, it's almost like, okay, what happened? They're more interested in the drink than really the packaging itself.
Correct. Correct.
So, and that's really where I think people at that age start to kind of deviate from what they learned at a younger age, especially with the environmental issues. When I was younger, I mean, ecology was like my favorite subject, and then I was, working in recycling, but not I get this all the time. Henry, not everybody's like you. I was like, what do you mean? Recycling is like brushing your teeth.
Yes, exactly.
It's what we do. It's what, it's that to me is how ingrained recycling is. It's just something that I've done at such a young age. And I'm still, going, how come people aren't getting it? We get visitors from like the West Coast and, well, how come you guys don't recycle numbers 3 through 7? We live on an island. So the 1 and 2 plastic has to have a value or else it's going to be a
Exactly.
$10,000 container charge.
Yes, exactly.
So there's a lot of, that education too that needs to be distributed, especially to the older people, because they want to recycle everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, magazines, we cannot take magazines.
Yes.
Oh yeah, but in California, they consider that a mixed paper and it's roughly $10 a ton, if that. I go, well, we just can't take it here. The
Right.
recyclers will have to pay a hefty cost.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there is a lot of things that we have to really kind of think about when we're looking at the type of waste that is recyclable, when we're looking at the type of green waste or food waste that's being composted.
Yep. You led into a really interesting and broad topic that you and I want to dig into is this new ordinance. Is it passed was it 2019, 2020 that it passed?
2019.
Tell us what that, just for our listeners, what is the ordinance? It has passed, correct? It's passed, and you are now implementing that ordinance. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it's Ordinance 1930. We deemed it the Disposable Foodware Ordinance. It was passed in 2019. Basically, it restricts the use of plastic foodware and serviceware.
Plates and forks and knives and cups and
forks, straws,
okay.
Things that separate food inside of packaging. So anything that has a petroleum base, we are looking at. It could be the ink. It was written that way.
Okay.
That passed in 2019. Then we hit COVID. So there was a emergency proclamation where certain ordinances were exempt.
Yeah, we'll wait until
And so it really wasn't
right.
until September 6th, 2022 that this law went into full effect.
I'll be darned.
And so during that time, the recycling staff, we were out there meeting with all the distributors, meeting with restaurants and talking about how this is going to affect their costs. There is an exemption process through this. It's been a struggle. And then, so now it's been enforced not enforced, but it's been implemented for 1 year. What do I see out there? I do see fiber. I do see a lot of fiber. I do see PLA.
Yep.
But what do I see mostly? Polypropylene. Number 5 plastic. Why? Because it doesn't fit within the definition of the law.
Wow.
And so when you have a polypropylene packaging that is microwavable, that is the manufacturer can prove that it was designed for multiple reuse, it's not even regulated. And so here we are trying to really
do something.
Right. And it did. This law is great. Polystyrene. Polystyrene is your number 6.
Yep.
Your styrofoam.
Yep.
It banned that pretty much. And we don't see that anymore. But what do we see? We see a lot of number 5 polypropylene, the hinge containers, the bowls, and things like that. Now, for me, knowing that it is microwavable, reusable, I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
But I can only store so many in my closet.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now I've got all these bowls and containers and
so
whatnot.
Are you talking about heavy PP? Are you talking about
heavy
reusable?
PP, yes.
Reusable PP?
Yes.
Okay, not the thin single use you throw out. We're talking about the heavy, microwavable items.
And that's really what we see out there.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned earlier, every county has a different law.
Right.
So as a distributor, wanting to do business here on Oahu, you might have to now figure out what the other counties are doing as far as banning or restricting foodware, plastic foodware, or serviceware. It's difficult. And that was one of the bigger issues that every distributor I talked about. She was like, Henry, now I got to carry this for this county and this for that county. And I was like, I can only really look at what the city and county of Honolulu is doing. Now, going a little bit beyond my purview, I've reached out to Hawaii County. They are going to be drafting, or they're in the process, I believe, of drafting their law. I've worked with Maui County. They passed their law, and there's subtle differences
Yep.
there. I know Kauai County has an ordinance in place, but it's not as strict. We all have a version of a single-use plastic ordinance. Is it the same? No. I think for the city and county of Honolulu, it's a little, we're looking at everything that is petroleum based pretty much.
So if there was something out there, and again, we've heard of bagasse and some of these other items that are made from sugarcane, is that acceptable? Is that okay based upon the ordinance?
So when you look at, we call it bagasse.
Yeah,
but when
bagasse,
you look
okay.
at bagasse, as long as it's 100% bagasse, then it's okay.
Yeah.
Now, what are the problems that we hear from the customers, and we get a lot of that?
Oh yeah,
Henry, these products, they absorb all the liquid, and next thing you know, I have it on my lap.
Yeah.
Or when I take it home, it's in the bag.
Yeah,
it's things like that it's like, okay, maybe we're still in this transition phase to find out what is the best or what is an alternative that will not leak.
Yeah.
But then we get into PFAS. That's another issue, the lining of all of this
I was
stuff.
just going to say, right.
So here we are now. It's like, okay, what other lining can we use? PFAS. So the state now is going to be banning PFAS.
And those are the forever, you're mentioning that as forever chemicals, as the PFAS.
Yeah, the forever chemicals. Yeah.
Right.
So now PFAS for the state of Hawaii is going to be banned in food packaging come July 1st, 2024. What is the alternative now if we're banning PFAS? What is the how are you going to deal with liquid, going through fiber type products? And then the issues with PLA. What if you have hot temperature food? Will that start to warp the PLA? So a lot of these issues I've seen, I've tried, it's happened. And I'm, my staff is the one enforcing all of this.
Yeah. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
100%.
So it's one of those laws where from the very beginning, the department, I work for the Department of Environmental Services, the refuse division is under that department.
Yep.
Our approach to enforcing this law is really working with distributors and working with restaurants and bars to transition smoothly. But, over the course of 3 or 4 years, we're still in that phase where, wow, we're still seeing problems. I've met with manufacturers who make PLA and they're like, Henry, we can do this and we can do that and we can do this. And it's, it's still, okay, what about the temperature issue? Is that, whether it's being shipped to the island, whether it's being stored in a hot warehouse or being served with hot food? Is there going to be some sort of structural compromise? And I think we're still there. We're still at that issue.
You're so right on. In fact, you and I met at one of the, I know it was a Hawaiian convention. I don't know whether it was a food convention or it was the city Honolulu Convention Center. And we met there. And one of the things that came up over and over, very similar to what you were talking about, is people would say, but here on Hawaii, we have a lot of sauces and gravies and we can't just use a bagasse and let it soak through. I mean, I'll be wearing it. It'll be all over my pants in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
And there's such an opportunity. If you were guessing, is there an opportunity for somebody when you're looking out again in Henry's crystal ball, that if there was a way, because PLA is temperature sensitive, of course, and just PLA cups, if you put them in a hot environment, they'll become like chewing gum. It'll just be a big blob. But if you had the food service containers, say with bagasse, with a PLA lining that actually made and was able to withstand the hot soup, the sauces and the gravy, the mashed potatoes, that in and of itself would seem to and again, PLA is not a forever chemical. This is not one of those forever. This is one of those things that actually is definitely in compliance. And that was the one thing I kept thinking to myself, my goodness, somebody can crush it if they get into something that is strong enough and rigid enough as a food service carryout container that actually does get the blessing, if you will, of your ordinance. And I wonder if, and it's just a broad scope, and I'm going off script, if you will, but do you guys from your agency, have you ever thought about that city and county of Honolulu stamp of approval, so to speak, as meaning because you've got certain rules and regulations that you could actually look at and say, yes, this meets what the ordinance is calling for. And almost where a company could put that logo or something on their documentation, because we've gone through, is there a testing or anything that your department would, almost like the good housekeeping seal of approval, remember?
Hmm.
And it's one
Hmm.
of those things that I just wonder if that would be of any value down the road for those distributors out there that want to get into this space, but actually they don't know who to go to and say, whereas like, Henry, does this fit the ordinance? I mean, I don't want to create work for you and your staff. I'm just thinking about, how do we go out there? Because I think you're already short staffed as it is, but I'm just wondering, because if we can consistently hit that message, I think we might be onto something.
In meeting with a lot of the distributors, that was the question. What form do you want to ensure that this product meets the ordinance?
Right.
And so, we asked for manufacturer letters to
Mhm.
state that it's so if it is compliant, we ask for manufacturer letters to state that there's no plastic, whether it's the ink
Yep.
or in
Yep.
the packaging
Yeah. Right.
itself or in the
Right.
serviceware. We'll do if we do get calls saying, Henry, this company says it is, but you may want to check on it. And so we do have the testing ability to test products based on an ASTM
Yeah. Yeah.
to see if it does,
Right.
include. But we really don't want to go there.
No, that's sort of, you know what?
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And as soon as I said that, and believe me, that wasn't a loaded question, because you don't,
No.
this isn't,
No,
but
we've received it though,
yeah,
and I
right.
don't mind dealing with it, but it's really just trying to get distributors to understand the law,
Right.
so that way they can provide their clients with packaging or serviceware that it is compliant.
Yeah.
Now, now in polystyrene is easy.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
Yeah. Right.
But when you get into some of the alternatives, it's like you can't really tell from afar if it's PLA or plastic.
Right.
So someone really has to look at it. Okay, that's
And
number
put it
5,
under a
okay.
microscope. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially
So
some of these this is big business. I mean, and that's
it's huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to be able to kind of cut corners, and I'm not saying anybody does, but I'm sure there
Right.
are people
Right.
that do that. But again, I was almost thinking, once we were just chatting about testing and not testing, but if somebody would go out to, there's independent testing facilities throughout the U.S., Lansmont,
Yes.
SGS, some of these others that basically can verify and
Yes.
literally say, Henry, here is the chemical makeup of this package that goes along with every one of these, whatever the container is. That in and of itself might be helpful just for people to really understand. Because like you said, a lot of the stuff looks the same.
Yes.
But unless you put it underneath a microscope, you're
Yes.
not gonna be able to tell.
And we've received some testing,
Yep.
on products.
Good.
And, it took a while to understand,
Yep.
but this is like, okay, now I understand that, okay, fossil fuel, biofuel versus talc and all of these things. And so when we look at it, it's pretty straightforward.
Right.
And as we evolve with this ordinance, there's probably going to be a lot more alternatives. Yeah, I hope that are available. Other than that, if we're going to continue this, these issues with the alternatives, and the Hawaii County is looking into this, it's reusables,
Mhm.
a reusable program.
Mhm.
Maybe there is a transition from this type of ordinance to now something that will source reduce,
Right.
as it evolves. Now, the issue I see right now for the city and county of Honolulu is that when these products are deemed compostable, and right now, if I'm looking at my methods, the city and county of Honolulu's methods to compost this type of product, we don't have an industrial composter.
Thank you.
We don't
I
have
know.
one.
Right.
And so here we are banning or restricting single-use plastic. The cost is a little bit more than
Yep.
plastic.
Yep.
And then you throw in the littering aspect.
Yep.
Oh yeah, but it'll degrade. Okay, but littering is an issue.
Exactly.
But then you look at it from a solid waste management standpoint. Well, if you just throw it away properly, for us here, it's going to go waste to energy.
Yeah.
So whether or not it's plastic or a compostable plastic, it still ends up at H Power, our waste to energy. So now what am I working on? So I'm putting together a request for proposals to have an industrial composter here to process that material. But there's a little bit of hesitancy, permit-wise, regulation-wise, because of the issue with PFAS.
Yeah.
How can you ensure that these compostable packaging does not contain PFAS? Whether it's BPI certified or CMA, certified,
right.
can you confirm that PFAS is not present once it's composted through an industrial composter? That is where we are right now, Dave. This was yesterday's conversation.
That's a tough
And
one,
so
brother. That's a tough one.
It is. It's it's a tough one.
Yeah.
And so there are things right now that, this, like I mentioned, this ordinance has been in place in 2019, and we're still trying to figure it out as we're moving forward with whether it's alternatives or end use and things like that.
Well, you mentioned a new landfill that is being proposed, or is it developed? Tell me about that, because I think that's also ties right into this kind of world of, where do we get rid of this stuff?
So just to give you some sort of context, we generate on island roughly 800,000 tons of garbage annually. We process roughly 2,300 tons of garbage daily through waste to energy.
Right.
So our landfill right now probably has roughly 13, 18 years of capacity left. The more we generate, the more ash we generate. Ash is what goes to the landfill and other inert material and special material. But we've got to be out of there, our current landfill, by 2028, regardless of the capacity or not. So not only that, there is a construction and demolition waste landfill that's closing. So the city, will probably have to, deal with construction and demolition waste. So right now, we're in the process of siting a new landfill for municipal solid waste and potentially construction and demolition waste. We're on an island. Land is expensive.
I was just thinking the same thing, man.
Land is expensive.
Yeah, you really are.
We also don't want to put a landfill over an aquifer.
I know.
So we're very limited in that. So that's why I feel we really have to think about upstream, the hierarchy of solid waste management. Why? So we can maybe minimize the amount of waste minimize the amount of space needed for a landfill.
Yeah, right.
But when you get people littering, when you get people who just is garbage, we have to design one for max capacity. So it's when I talk to people about how we manage garbage here, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And then it gets to a point where it's like they walk away and I'm like, I hope they get it, or did I just inundate them with all this?
Well, you know what?
stuff.
And that's why it's exciting to chat with you, because I get it, because you're running, you're like that gerbil on the wheel. You can't really, it's one thing that leads to another, It just never stops. But we gotta start somewhere. We gotta do something, and at least, and I feel for you, because as paradise it is, you still have waste, and that waste has to go somewhere. And paradise will not be paradise if we don't have the ability to do something with the waste. And is it you and I could talk forever. What do you do? Is this a political thing, Henry? Is this you need a Jeff Bezos to come in with $1 billion and say, Henry, go fix it? What is an answer that you could actually, that you even remotely think could have an impact and win?
To me, the answer is changing our behavior,
Got it.
the social norm, changing the social norm. If waste isn't generated, this solid waste industry wouldn't be around.
Right.
But is that reality? No. I just had a conversation last week with why don't we build design things with more recyclable material?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
what about a couch?
Yeah.
So like a couch, a simple
Exactly.
couch.
Right.
You're gonna have foam. Your car, when it's shredded, you're gonna
Right.
have all this residue. It's really just every individual should understand, just like buying things, should understand that the waste that they're generating, what can they do differently to generate less waste? If these people can really understand that, and it's whether it's through a person like me or
Yeah.
just
Yeah. A
through
podcast
education,
like this. Yeah.
podcasts
Exactly.
like this,
Yeah.
it will change their view. And then the hope is they act on it.
Right.
And it could be a small change, but over time, hopefully generations go by, then it becomes a social norm. Just like me and recycling. It's like I don't know what I don't know. It's just easy. It's so easy to do.
Is there anything that, and again, this is just off the top of my head, but if we would, force sounds too strict, but if there's any way to get retailers and businesses to rethink, I know it's very easy for Costco to just open a Costco or, whatever it is, but if they know that they're going to be hit with a surcharge or something, if they don't actively work to reduce the packaging that you're using, specifically for Hawaii, and I'm not saying that wouldn't tie into the rest of the country, but you guys, just like you said, if you reduce the waste, you can see an immediate impact. And a lot of these retailers are just opening up shop and shipping their stuff over from the mainland, and that's fine. I get it. But if they're not actively working to reduce or even being somewhat aware that a quart of motor oil can be reduced, instead of the plastic that's just the rigid plastic for a quart of motor oil could be done in something different, or could be done in, just anything like that would just lead to just incremental change.
What I try, like I don't get it. I don't get the opportunity to talk to a lot of these manufacturers. I do every once in a while, but every time I do, the main thing that I tell them is like, and this is what I say, design with disposal in mind.
Yep.
The reason why I say that is because down the line, whatever you produce, it's going to be a waste product. And we have to know the method before it even, before it's even mass produced.
Right.
I say this only because we're in that phase right now where we're changing from fossil fuels to alternative energy.
Yep.
So your solar panels, your electric vehicle batteries, your lithiums, your windmill blades, all of these things will be a waste. And we haven't figured out how we're going to dispose of them here. So what do they got to do? Ship them off island, and then the cost goes up.
Yep.
So it's like design with disposal in mind. Hopefully that will stick as we evolve from this, but we're already seeing the problems of solar panels, end of life solar panels. And we're waiting. We're just kind of waiting. Okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
When we have all these panels coming in our waste stream, what do we do now? It's a hazardous waste here. So
what's your take? And it's just a quick riff. I mean, because I know everybody loves to go down the road of electric cars and Tesla and their beautiful cars and the whole thing, but the electricity comes from somewhere. And that grid, the grid is being stressed. It's not free, and that's where these alternative sources need to come around. And this is just this moving target, man, that I totally feel for you, because this doesn't have a quick fix. It is a generational kind of, we need to slowly but surely change the perception. And just like you said, think about disposal from the very beginning. Think about the waste that a product makes from the very beginning. And man, it is the Titanic. We're trying to turn the Titanic, if you will. You know what I mean? It's crazy,
There's
man.
so many industries involved.
Yeah.
Waste is just one aspect of it. You see climate change.
Yep.
You see, all these things are all in a knot, pretty much. And here we are trying to figure out how to undo one knot at a time. But it's not one person. It's almost like it takes industries and peoples and political figures. And we all, we don't agree with each other most times. And so
I know.
So then it's like, to me, it's like when recycling was introduced in the early 2000s here, it was a no-brainer for me. It was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. But then you get resistance from other people. Why do I have to force it to be recycled now? And I still have that argument today. It's
Isn't
like,
that crazy?
why should you be forced? You should be able to recycle.
Right.
But it's really trying to get people to understand the waste that they're producing, and really now currently understand the waste that they're producing and what are the effects to it. How am I as an individual now buying an electric vehicle when I have to change that battery? What is going to be the cost?
Yeah, right.
Of
exactly.
it. You can't just take it to just a repair shop.
No, you can't. Man.
Right.
Okay. So as we wrap up, what is the best way for us to help you? The awareness, is there a political committee? Is there a push, something that hopefully we can get the political people behind this to really kind of listen to a guy like Henry Gabriel, to listen to your team, because we're going to have to, it's got to start somewhere. I mean, and I wouldn't even know I know what I would do here, which is what I'm actively doing, is go to our congressman, go to our congresswomen and say, look, you guys are totally screwing this up, but you're a different animal out there. It's different in Hawaii because you are so in the middle of nowhere.
Right. It's really community involvement in all levels, whether it's the city and county of Honolulu, the state of Hawaii, environmental justice organizations. There has to be communication.
Yep.
And once you have that and people are talking, it's amazing what a group of people can overcome,
100%.
Can accomplish. It's not going to take one individual like me. It's going to take a lot of people that really want to push the issue. Just like the disposable foodware ordinance, a lot of it was really developed by the nonprofit organizations, the environmental justice organizations. And now here I am, who, I'm a waste guy.
Yeah, right.
And so here I am, I'm on board with that, trying to figure out now the implementation, the enforcement. And then we go to talking with the packaging companies, the distributors. It's going to take a team and effort to move forward with any waste issues that we have.
Oh, man. It's a great way to wrap this up. And Henry, we're cheering you on over here, brother, because I know you can do it. And I know you're passionate about it. I knew that from the minute I met you. And we just want you to know if there's anything we can do to help, if there's anything out there that we can, something that we can sign or get the masses going, because it is paradise. And the last thing we want to do is screw that up out there by just being overrun by waste. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I know exactly what you mean. I deal with it every day, Dave. I deal with it every day.
Well, and I will put a link, just for our listeners, I'll put a link to, Henry, if it's okay with you, I'll put a link to your website and what you guys do. And basically just to kind of make them aware of what the city and county of Honolulu does and challenges that you're having. And again, please let us know if there's a campaign or something that we can, because we'll go back sometimes in the podcast and kind of do updates. And if something changes down the road or something you want to become aware of, and you're always welcome back here, but if there's something that we can promote and get out there for you and your team, I mean, like you said, it's going to take community involvement. It has to. And once it goes, I really think you'll find, and I hope you'll find that everybody wants the same thing.
Yes. I agree 100%.
Brother, we could talk forever, my man. I want to thank you once again for being here. I will see you, I think. I'm coming back out in January. So we've got a kind of a round to see some customers, and I'm going to make sure that you and I get together and chat and meet each other once again.
Yeah, all right.
All right, buddy.
No, it's been a pleasure being on this show, Dave.
And thank you for being here.